Coming back from the hardware store. Got some crappy wood, perfect for a rustic look. First thing, once you get the boards back from a hardware store, they always got staples. You want to make sure that you remove all the staples you can possibly remove, the tags, everything. All I'll end up doing is just interfering with your blade, and that's not a good thing. I went ahead and edged every single board that I was going to glue together, and then I decided how I wanted them oriented and drew myself a triangle on there so I knew how they're going to be. Identified all the cracks, the areas that I couldn't use. Just want to make sure I mark those, get rid of them, front and back, so you know exactly where they're at. Went ahead and did the glue up. Not concerned at this point as far as flatness. Can always come back and do that, which I will anyway. You can see unevenness with that middle board. Then I proceeded to work on the walls. Again, cut the dimensions just using 3/4 inch plywood, as well as some of the strips that I'm going to use for the frames. Then I proceeded to work on this as a cabinet. When I say cabinet, that's the one thing I did not really, I wasn't serious about it. I'm thinking, oh, rustic, I'm not really concerned about how this thing's gonna look that much, because I'm gonna paint it, it's gonna look rustic anyway. I don't need to be that accurate, even though sometimes I look like I'm being that accurate. Huge mistake, by the way, as far as not making sure that it's a cabinet design. What I mean by that, square. Sorry, I'm sure you can hear my cat in the background. Got all the dividers in place, the walls, the tops, the sides. Just securing everything now. I use deck screws for it. You don't have to. There it is, just the frame itself of the cabinet, wobbly because there's no backboard yet. But just making sure that everything is sized, and so you can see I put a little bar in between there. It's held by that yellow clamp, just to make sure it's held in place. And when I'm doing this, I was so concerned about it. I can see that very far corner seems to be a little bit high. I didn't worry about it at the time, and I should have, and what I ended up doing was kind of compensating for it by adjusting other parts of the entertainment center itself, which I shouldn't have done. Then I had some center supports here, just using a Forstner bit, clearing out the material, not going all the way through, just deep enough so that when I push these screws in, that they're actually going to secure. And then just in case my wife wanted to put shelves in at some point, I went ahead and drilled some holes. Then I started flattening the top, using, or at least getting the beef off with the hand plane. And from there, I can go ahead and press on with the cutting off all those cracks that I saw. So getting rid of those. Wasn't too concerned with squareness here. But, you know, like I said, as far as flatness goes, thought, it's not that bad. Let's just go ahead and sand it, prep it for staining. Make sure you put conditioner if you're going to use pine like this here. And then I started to get onto the boards. What I'm gabbing about is it's 115 degrees in the shade as I'm applying the two different layers of paint. I proceeded on to the staining. Like I said, I shouldn't have at this point. I should have at least gotten the bottom side flat that's going to end up being on the cabinet itself, because that makes a big difference, and you can see it wobbling there. So I said screw it. I pulled out my router sled here and decided to throw the throw the whole top on there and flatten it. But I only flattened the bottom. I wasn't worried about the top. Still wanted to give it a little bit of a rustic look, so it's got a little bit of unevenness to it when it's done, and that's intentional. But the bottom is flat so that it sits well onto the cabinet. I had to move fast, as you can see. Ha! It's you can see how high that one port is, all in the closest to me, and how uneven that was. So it took probably a good half an hour just to actually flatten this one side. I tell you though, if you haven't made yourself a router sled, do it. Then I proceeded to start making the doors. I used some leftover planks that I had painted. I think that was from the original frame. I thought I'd glue all of them together and then paint them from there. And here's one of them that hadn't been painted yet. And so originally, obviously, you saw the picture that was on the icon for YouTube. I don't have the doors on it. You can see it in the background there. I hadn't quite sanded it just yet all the way anyway, at least not the front face frame. But I needed to try to square it up first and do some fits. And the sad thing is, I wound up getting both doors perfect. And so actually, just before they were perfect, I had marked the side. There was a little bit to trim off there, so I just took it over to my trusty old hand plane and planed off what I needed to, and then just got it to fit in there. And you see I got little wood strips at the bottom there. Those are 1/8 of an inch thick, so there's an 1/8 of an inch thick at the bottom, 1/8 of an inch at the top. I wanted to do, this is my first attempt at doing inset doors. So then I thought, okay, well, these are great. While the paint's drying on the doors, because they'd already painted them, my wife walks by and she says, hey, you know what? These things look like they're cupped, referring to the doors. Yeah, they are really cupped. In the garbage they went, because it's already like ungodly humid here at the time. So I said, forget it for now, maybe in the winter. I went ahead and put some angle brackets on to secure the top to the cabinet itself. And then I cut out some backboard. That is not the easiest stuff to deal with, by the way. And when it comes to cutting it to the right length, using a Japanese handsaw was probably the wrong tool to use, but in the end it did get the job done, and it did just fine. Just flimsy board. And I tacked that on, made it nice and sturdy. So up until this entertainment center project, I hadn't really built anything that was about the size of my workbench. Everything was as much smaller projects, like cutting boards and charcuterie boards and other custom type projects, as you've seen on my channel. This, however, was about the size of my workbench here. And then I realized that corner, this far left corner to me, is actually about an 1/8 inch higher. This was the first project that I ever made, and I'm sure you've seen it in videos of them cutting and sawing something, the whole thing's shaking. I need a new one anyway, I need to make it, but this was my first one. And I never thought about having to have it completely flat or whatnot. So keep that in mind if you're going to end up building a workbench. Try to make it true and try to make it so that it's robust, so that it doesn't shake. If you're able to accomplish that, you're going to have a really nice workbench forever. And here's the finished product. Not bad. Still got a lot of decorations to put in it. Looks great under an 85-inch TV, so you can get an idea of how big it is.